Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for attending this ADB Circular Economy webinar series, session 26. And we're very happy to have our friends from the Asian Development Bank Institute and their colleagues come to talk to us about some work that's going on in the circular economy in the construction industry. So I'd like to just introduce who's going to speak. My friend Dina Gazibleva, the Senior Research Fellow at ADBI, Ferhat Karaca, the Professor of Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan, Luis Branjaga, the Civil Engineering Professor at the University of Minho, Portugal, Randaska, who's a PhD candidate at the University of Minho, Portugal, and Aidana Tlukin, who is the early stage researcher at Nazarbayev University in Kazakhstan. So on that note, I'll like to hand over to Dina. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Steve, for introduction. So I will share my screen. So we prepared the work and we would like to share our results. This work is done with a great team of researchers, but today it will be presented just by 5 people, what Steve mentioned. So this is the agenda for today. We will move from through each part by my co-authors. Let me first start with introduction. So we are focusing circular economy for construction sector only. So, you know, construction sector, actually building construction, contribute greatly to greenhouse gas emissions, energy use. So, for example, only building construction contributes 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions and also 6% of energy use. So emissions come not only from energy use, but also from manufacturing, especially very famous emission intense materials such as cement, steel. Yeah, so this is very important for decarbonizing building construction, is very important for reaching countries' net zero targets, other national determined contributions which countries targeting. So for this, circular economy is really important instrument for decarbonizing construction industry, because it will help to efficient use of resources, minimizing waste, recycling materials, and so on. So everything which will help with decarbonizing construction sector. So this study, we wanted to focus on stakeholder perspective, their perception on the issues and solutions from circular economy. Next, please.
So, good morning. My name is Luis Bragança, as I already was presented by Steve. I am the chair of the cost action CA 21103 that is that deals with the topic implementation of circular economy in the built environment. This is a cost action. What is a cost action? So first thing, cost is a European intergovernmental program that gathers all the European countries and some neighborhood countries, and cost is the acronym for European Cooperation in Science and Technology. Cost provides networking opportunities for researchers and innovators in order to strengthen Europe's capacity to address scientific, technological, and social changes. And a very important thing is that cost is bottom-up and excellence-driven. It is open and inclusive for peaceful purposes in all areas of science and technology. So this is an organization, international organization that tries to get people together and with collaboration and we can create other things. So the cost action that I am sharing is the acronym is circular B, so circular buildings, circular built environment, and the main aim of the action is to define the methodology to develop a common circularity framework for inclusive application and assessment in new and existing buildings to support what? To support decision making for all value chain stakeholders and appraise the implementation level of the European Circular Economy Action Plan. So this is, you know, Europe is very much concerned with climate changes, with preservation of resources, with energy, and we have these programs to help the implementation of circular economy. So next slide, please. As I said, costs includes all the European countries, not only European Union, but almost all European countries. As you can see here in the map, we have so it is 41 countries, and we have 40 countries that are members of our action, with a representation of 76 management committee members that are nominated by the countries, and we have lots of people involved in our network. This slide is already outdated because it was 2 weeks ago, and now we have already almost 400 members. So here it is written 382, and we have already 400 members. And it is counting and counting. So please, next slide. And it is difficult to deal with so much people. We are organized in 4 working groups. Here are the names. Working group 1 is the one that has more interested people, that is dealing with circular strategies and best practices. We have a leader and a co-leader, Viorel Ungurianu from Romania and Caterina Tsila Tuki from Greece. We have another working group that is working group 2, that is in charge of circular value chain and stakeholder engagement, that is led by Diana Bajar and Gabriel Zembinski. Diana is from Latvia and Gabriel is from Spain. The working group 3 is about circular KPIs and the framework, and it is led by Elena Gervasio and Rand Askar, that is here in this webinar. Rand, I will introduce immediately. Rand is my right hand, and she is also the research operations manager of this action. So she's the one that knows everything. I know only part of the things. And the last group is dealing with dissemination and communication of results, and is led by Philip Griffiths from the UK and Adriana Salles. She's from Brazil, but she's here in Portugal. So Rand, can you please continue and explain our achievements so far, because this is the most important thing, I guess, for the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lish, for the kind words. So I'm Brenda Askar, the Research Operations Manager and the Working Group 3 co-leader in this Circular Cost Action. So moving now to the structure of our project or our action. So this figure pretty much explains everything about the main ideas in our action. We managed to develop this figure since the early submission stages of the proposal. So as Professor Reich explained, our action is composed of 4 working groups, so each addressing different aspects of circularity, yet all working groups are complementary and complement each other towards achieving our goal. So we have working group 1, that is responsible about the circularity design strategies and the examination of best practices and pilot cases, addressing also the different types of barriers against the circularity implementation and monitoring in the built environment. They are also responsible about the development of the circularity best practices e-learning platform that we are planning to launch this year, to be hosted by our website. So this is a very important activity that will have tutorial materials. This activity will also be coordinated by a working group 4 that is responsible about the dissemination and the communication of our results. So moving now to working group 2. Working group 2 is responsible about the stakeholders. So we're aiming in this working group to collect the perspectives of a multidisciplinary group of stakeholders. So we have different group of stakeholders coming together in this working group to develop some policy recommendations, and also coming up with ideas for service-based circular business models. We're also aiming to develop with the working group a circularity management model to see how the processes of circularity circular economy can also be promoted, because we are aware in this action that circularity is not only about the technicality of the processes and the material flows and design, but it's also about the circularity of feedback systems and the connectivity of the value chain players and actors. Now we move to working group 3 on the left side. So working group 3 is pretty much the core of this action. So here we are responsible about the development of the KPIs, the circularity key performance indicators framework. So we are following in this working group a life cycle approach. So we are addressing the different life cycle stages of a building, starting from the design stages or the design of a new building, addressing concepts like design for adaptability, design for longevity, design for change, and design for disassembly since the early design stages. And then we also address existing buildings that represent the use stage of the life cycle. So we are here addressing some indicators regarding the adaptive reuse of existing buildings, the material recovery technologies and KPIs, and also the integration of recovered materials into new applications, new buildings, and renovation projects. So as you see, like these activities are still connected with the other working groups. So we need perspectives from stakeholders. We need also some best practices and insights from working group 1. And then everything is connected here. So we are also aiming in this action to align our work with the aspiration of the twin transition towards green, yet also digital industry. So we are aiming to automate our framework to be developed within a BIM environment to ensure the centralization of the information and the accessibility by all stakeholders to the model we are developing. We're also aiming here to align also our work with the sustainability aspiration. We are aware that circular economy is a new aspiration towards sustainable development. So we are aware about the need to integrate the framework we are developing within the broader sustainability perspective by aligning our objectives with the sustainability framework levels. That is the common sustainability framework in Europe. That's a brief explanation about the structure of our framework. Of course, our framework will be having different dimensions like the social dimension, technical dimension, environmental, economic, governmental, and organizational. We are all aware about the need to include these all dimensions in our framework. So some achievements here and current activities within our action. The first is that we managed to publish a book that has 37 papers about different aspects of circularity. That was in the initial stages in the first year of this action. That was last year. So we published this book in Springer that is called Creating a Roadmap Towards Circularity in the Built Environment. It's a very interesting reading. And we're collecting here the proceedings of our first workshop that was held in Skopje. We are currently working on the publication of our deliverable 2, Circular Economy Design and Management in the Built Environment, a critical review of the state of the art. And this deliverable is already in the editing process. It's ready. And it's going to be published very soon. So we in this book we're following a multi-scale approach towards circularity in the built environment. We're starting from a material scale, passing through individual building scale, and then like to circularity of urban scale and built environment. We are also having some very active groups in our cost action, working in collaborative journal papers addressing different topics, yet these topics are related to our working groups. So we managed to publish some papers. One of them is the paper that Ferhat and Aidana will present today, and others also addressed different topics for the circular business models, about the circular business models, circularity management, cost-benefit analysis, also led by Professor Karaca, and best practices and stakeholders perspective. We are also in the progress in developing our deliverable 3. So we are doing we are designing a survey that will be like disseminated very soon and will be hosted by the GCR, the European Research Center, Joint Research Center. And it's going to be about the technical challenges and barriers for circular strategies implementation. We are all aiming to collect perspectives from different stakeholders to address these barriers, to identify first these barriers. We're not actually going to identify only the technical barriers, but also some governmental barriers, regulatory barriers, economic barriers also are very important, and environmental barriers. So this work is still in progress, but we are being very active in addressing these aspects. We also managed to do a very interesting activity during the first year about the examination of existing standards and policies regarding circular economy at different levels, a national level, the European level, and international level. So one of our group managed to collect fact sheets for or develop fact sheets for 21 coast countries. Like they collected information about the existing standards and policies that are related to the implementation of circular economy, and we managed to analyze the gap between like the most implementing countries for circular economy and the least ones. So we noticed that there's a big gap in this regard. We are also aiming to continue working on this fact sheet and collect more fact sheets for the other countries. So the last activity main activity we are working on is the D8, the circularity dashboard that we are developing. So we are doing an exhaustive and comprehensive collection and examination for existing circularity indicators. We're aiming to collect everything and categorize them within a dashboard, so we are now in the phase of designing the layout of the dashboard to see how best we can categorize different circularity indicators so we can make the most of them. And this will also help us later to develop our own circularity framework without or building upon existing endeavors. Next slide, please. So this is our last slide for Circular B. So we're happy to announce that we are going to hold stakeholders webinar series. So we have been planning to do this activity for some time, and we finally managed to set approximate dates and launch our activity next month in April. So we have a couple of series, the spring series and the autumn series, and they will be like monthly held. So in this webinar series, we're aiming to also collect the perspective and hear like the success stories, initiatives, best practices, experiences from different groups of stakeholders. We are starting by the academy and research, then we're gonna also hear the perspective of the policy shapers and regulators, then investors, developers, and insurance providers. Also the building design teams and facility managers, then also the contractors, builders, and manufacturers. And lastly, the construction and demolition team and waste management industry. So that was pretty much a brief summary or a brief presentation about our action. For more information, you can always visit our website and consult the news and the different activities that we are working on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rand. Previous slide, please, Dina. Yes, this is. Okay, so after your introduction for the action group we are involving in, and actually I like to highlight that the findings of this research, we approached the stakeholders in the network of action group as introduced by Rand and Luis. So now I am going to provide some technical details and some introductory knowledge and information about the concept we are dealing with. Then Aydan is going to present further details about the research findings. So good day, everyone. Today, in this part of my talk, I'd like to discuss the role of stakeholders in the adoption of circular economy principles in the construction industry. The construction industry is a sector that is primarily driven by financial considerations, and those considerations which often results in resistance to adopting innovations due to uncertainties surrounding the related costs and benefits. In addition to that, the drivers of a sustainable construction sector are mainly government regulations, external and internal pressure from stakeholders, and perception of the cost effectiveness. After making this very short introduction, I like to address that it is crucial to clearly define the cost and benefits associated with circular business models in construction and engage stakeholders in adopting circular practices. After addressing the role of stakeholders in adopting new implementations in the sector, especially if they are related to cost, it is critical to say that previous research, in the extant literature, has underscored the significance of cost and benefit considerations as critical factors influencing circular economy implementations. And our purpose is to identify how those, especially the cost, is critical in different contexts. And our personal communications with the stakeholders showed that a large uncertainty remains regarding its economical feasibility and affordability, particularly for small and medium enterprises. So most of the stakeholders have some certain concerns. Moreover, financial institutions, maybe the experts from ADB can also share the same opinion with us, seems to have limited experience with circular models. They are more likely to classify circular businesses as a risky, especially for the construction sector. Next slide, please. Okay, the transition toward the circular economy involves substantial initial investment, procurement of recycling and sorting equipment, waste processing plants, and related technologies. As you see, these are all extra cost factors, especially if you think as a contractor and like to implement a circular economy principles in your project. Those are the factors going to be, are realized as upfront costs, and maybe realized as not necessary, especially at the beginning of the projects. Considering the geographic dimensions, different countries and regions experience different costs and benefits based on their contextual considerations. If these variations are analyzed well with efficient communication with the stakeholders, it is possible to identify the right priorities and make a selection of best fitting implementation strategies for them. After my talk, my colleague Aidana is going to present our methodology on how we collect stakeholder opinions. And then she will also present you the results of our research addressing the implementation ranking for different contexts, for the cost, the understanding of cost from the perspective of stakeholders. Next slide, please. I also like to talk a little bit about the advantages and challenges of circular economy implementation in the construction sector. The adoption of circular economy in the construction industry offers many advantages. These advantages include a reduction in waste generation, diminished use of virgin resources, and a lower environmental impact in the production of new materials, including decreased energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. And for example, reusing resources through a resale may prove more advantageous than purchasing new materials, while refurbishment is a cost-effective alternative to construct new buildings because it extends the life of existing buildings. Furthermore, integrating circular economic practices can enhance economic competitiveness by opening new markets, reducing reliance on imports, and generating new employment opportunities. A shift toward circular economy principles can also result in tax benefits. However, challenges also exist. We have to note all possible. I'm not going to list all possible challenges, but some of them are more critical than others. For instance, our communication with the stakeholders showed that they have a common concerns in determining, or we can say presenting to customers, the quality and usability of reclaimed materials for different applications. As I mentioned before, enabling circular economy operations needs several direct costs, including energy and water consumption, transportation, and additional machinery and equipment maintenance. The CE approach, circular economy approach, also demands a shift in production design methods, such as design for disassembly and modular design. And this type of concepts require challenges in technological software and specific expertise if you compare it with the linear economy applications. Consequently, there is a need for additional training and education activities for construction professionals to acquire the required skills. Addressing these many-sided challenges will ensure the successful and sustainable implementation of the transformative approach. Overall, adopting circular economy principles in construction industry can create a more sustainable and efficient industry, benefiting both environment and economy. Next slide, please. So this slide, I'm going to conclude my introduction about the concept, what we are dealing. And I'd like to conclude my talk by readdressing the adoption of circular economy principles in the construction industry as is an essential step towards a more sustainable future. While it may pose challenges, such as initial investment costs and changes in production design methods, the benefits of adopting circular economy principles also compensate for the costs. It is crucial to involve stakeholders in clearly defining the costs and benefits associated with circular business models and ensuring the successful of sustainable implementation of this transformative approach. So I'd like to invite Aidana, please. Aidana, please continue with our methodology and results of the research. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for introducing the research. So now we will move to the main part of the research. We'll talk about research concept, methods, and the results. So we had 5 research questions. First one was about the impact of circular economy strategies on construction costs. then how these strategies increase costs, what is the contribution of the CE strategies to overall benefits, and how these strategies enhance benefits. And in the end, we researched how these circular activities affect construction companies' financial performance. Next, please. So we are moving to methodology first. The first step was the identification of all of the circular practices and the relevant stakeholders. We did a thorough literature review. Next, we proceeded with the survey design and data collection. So how we developed the survey, we, during 2 roundtables with international proficient researchers, have selected the most prioritized and impactful measures. These identified practices were incorporated into the online survey regarding stakeholders' opinions on costs and benefits. So like the survey was, first part was about some socio-demographic information like country, experience, and so on. And then this section was followed by Likert scale questions that evaluated the attitude towards circular practices, costs, and benefits. If you go to the next slide, you could see the chosen circular practices. And on the next slide, you could see the benefits and costs which were found from the literature, and then we also incorporated this information into the survey. Next slide, please. Then we conducted the survey. No, previous, please. Yeah, we conducted the survey. The respondents were recruited through an online survey using Qualtrics platform, starting from June to end of August last year. We have also received approval from Research Ethics Committee, and the survey was developed in various languages to include various respondents. As part of the data processing, incomplete responses were excluded, so we put limitation of 70% empty fields. Next, we proceeded. No, please, previous slide. Sorry. Yeah, we proceed with analysis, cost, and benefit modeling. We incorporated XGBoost and SHAP machine learning methods. This was a regression task. So XGBoost was used to identify patterns and relationships within responses by various stakeholders, while SHAP was used to define the feature contribution. So, for instance, it may indicate that a particular opinion significantly impacted a research question, showing that this one was like a most priority for the stakeholders. So yeah, this analysis aimed to provide insights into the views that shape stakeholders' perspectives on circular economy, and to understand the correlations within the survey data. The accuracy was assessed using mean absolute percentage error, and the study employed the 80-20 split for the training and testing sets. We also had various countries participating. You can see in this slide the total number of participated respondents for different countries and for different stakeholders. These values are after the 70% limit empty responses check. And we differentiated the results for European and non-European countries, because doing analysis by countries was could not be generalized enough. And next slide, please. Now moving to the results. Next slide. Yeah, this is research question 1. We explored the impact of implementing circular economy in construction project costs. So our findings in this figure display compare responses for European and non-European countries. Interestingly, both groups showed similar priorities: the importance of reusing materials, employing disassembly elements, and the trend towards producing construction elements off-site. This pattern reveals a trend that regardless of the region, the construction industry is aware of the costs associated with implementing CE practices. Particularly, the challenges mainly revolve around maximizing the reuse of materials, their disassembly, and also off-site production. Next. So in the research question 2, we investigated how the implementation of circular strategies could potentially increase project costs. And our analysis revealed that looking at European countries, we find that two main concerns affect costs. Those are fines due to not complying with circular regulations, and also decrease in work efficiency due to resistance to change among workers. In contrast, non-European countries highlighted waste treatment costs as the top factor, suggesting that there are some challenges with their waste management systems. However, both European and non-European regions identified that there are common issues with transportation costs. So probably, yeah. Research question 3 shows that there is we wanted to understand the importance and agreement regarding the benefits of circular practices in construction. So in Europe, there is a significant appreciation for practices such as reusing materials, optimizing the use of structural elements, and also offsite production. It shows that there is a solid commitment of European countries, and that these are the main factors which help to gain benefits. Conversely, in non-European countries, there is a high priority for offsite production and materials to use. And also, this region shows that there is an importance of designing buildings with components that can be easily disassembled. Next, please. In research question 4, we wanted to understand how circular economy implementation could potentially improve benefits, and we correlated this with stakeholder perceptions on cost reductions derived from circular strategies. So as can be seen in this figure, there are some differences in priorities between European and non-European countries. For example, in Europe, there is a focus more on reducing waste and boosting the usage of local materials. Whereas in non-European regions, there is more emphasis put on market development opportunities, on the resale markets, and promoting collaboration within the construction industry in investigating potential tax incentives. So we see that there is a little bit diverse global perspective on circular economy practices. And next, our study also aimed to delve into how circular economy would impact the financial performance of organizations. And from our findings, we see that European organizations highlight transportation costs as their top concern, closely followed by the need to develop new resale markets and boost stakeholder collaboration. Whereas in non-European organizations, they more would focus on reducing the use of new and virgin materials, which is followed by the necessity to adapt workflow processes and invest into staff expertise. So this insight show that, those insights in the previous slide show that geographical location influences circular economy implementation, and this is how we develop further policy recommendations.
Thank you very much. So let me conclude our presentation, so we have more time for Q&A. Briefly, here are the following key takeaways and policy recommendations. So as you see, we only studied perception of stakeholders, not the actual cost. So it would be really helpful to have more information and about cost effectiveness, and we can even compare them actual to perception. So there is a need for information and guidance about cost-effective circular economy practices. Secondly, from our results, we found that in European Union, we really care about fines, worker motivation, maintenance cost, while in non-Europe, it's more on logistics. Third, policy, as you can see, there is differences between regional differences. We showed you European, non-European. So policy should be adopted to local conditions. So regional variation exists in prioritizing practices, recycling in Europe, and also it's more on disassembly in non-Europe. Also, Fourth one is the need for prioritization of activities affecting financial performance. So that's what stakeholders care about, financial performance. So in Europe, for example, it's more on lower transportation costs, resale markets, stakeholder collaboration. In non-Europe, benefits include focus on reduced use of new material, workflow changes, and staff training. So there is also, interestingly, we found there is minimal importance of brand improvement, reputation from stakeholder perspective. So there is a really need to improve this interest in this to have this reputation, public awareness policies, so that companies who invest and spend more in circular economy, they can have a reputation that they have done these efforts. So recognition or visibility of circular economy efforts will help. Thank you very much. So we can start with Q&A here. So do we have any questions? Maybe Steve? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Dina. Thanks. I think everybody's a little bit shell-shocked, so perhaps we might give them a little time to ask some questions. I wanted to just go into a little bit more detail about what we talked about prior to this call, which is talking about the perception of cost and, you know, what can lead on from this. And perhaps Ferhat might be the right person to ask that question.
Thank you very much, Steve, for this nice question. Actually, you are right. Also, during our previous communication, I also said that I have my first-hand experience in the construction sector. I started working as a field engineer when I was a young engineer, then almost passed through all the stages in construction business. Now I am in academia as a full-time professor, and now doing some consultancy work for the construction companies. And the cost is, yes, cost is the most critical parameter for the contractors. I mean, it might be not right for all the stakeholders. For example, designers, they may not care too much about the cost because they are more interested in the design integrity. But I am talking about the main group holding the big power in the for taking the decision. They are the contractors and the project owners. So the cost is very critical for them. And if you are changing your business model from linear economy to, for example, circular economy, and the main concern comes with the upfront cost, I mean the investment costs. So implementing circular economy practices requires lots of investment, and without having proper incentives and support from the government, they are thinking that it is not necessary and even burdensome, so they just prefer to avoid. So the cost justification of the cost of the stakeholders are mostly in that way, and of course in a long term there will be benefits. I mean, they are going to gain, like energy savings, building integrity, and then other stuff will turn into a kind of benefit, and maybe they are going to be having more beneficial in the long term. But as I told you, that the main stakeholders making the decision is the owners, and they are not really interested in the operational lifetime of the buildings, even though they say they are mostly interested in the cost they are investing in the product, and that's the main concern for the sector. And also, I have one experience to share. One of the stakeholders, they stated that they bought some machinery. It was one of the largest company in Europe. They said that they bought their own machinery to make recycling. It's an interesting circular economy implementation to convert concrete waste into aggregates. And they made the implementation for almost 1 year and maybe more. And they said that they just decided not to use it anymore because the benefit of having recycling at site is not that good. So these are the main concerns from the stakeholders. I just gave you one example. The circular economy is an ambitious target, but if you want it working for construction sector, we have to carefully analyze the stakeholders' opinions and their priorities. Then we can take the right decisions. That's why our research is critical and important. We have done exactly what we said. We collected opinions from the stakeholders, and we just give a kind of ranking for the importance of the strategies based on their priorities. I don't know if the answer is good enough. Still,
No, the answer is great. Would anybody else on the panel like to add anything? If anybody else?
Excuse me, may I say something?
Please, Luis, go ahead.
I fully agree that costs, investment costs, are the most important aspect, especially for people that do not have so much money, because it costs a lot to make the initial investment, and that is the most significant cost. Well, people see this as the most significant cost. Usually, they do not account for the running costs, for the operation costs, and those can be also very significant in what concerns energy, and in what concerns maintenance, and in what concerns the operation itself. And that is why it is important that we carry out research and we find solutions, low-cost solutions that are suitable, reliable, that can be used in a circular economy approach. This is why we are very much concerned in producing this kind of technical solutions to overcome the problem of costs. Another aspect that is very much important is our future as mankind, because we all know that we are suffering from climate changes, and we have to try to mitigate these climate changes, and we can only mitigate this if we reduce the greenhouse gas releases, and this is strictly or very much related with energy. And while we do not shift to renewable energy, that will take time, lots of time, we will continue to release greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, and the climate will change even more than what has changed so far. So this is a twofold approach. First, the individual, the contractors, the designers, and then another aspect that is at governmental level, and in Europe, not only governmental, but European level, European Union level, because we can create frameworks that incentivize, that promote the implementation of circular economy. This is the way we see this, and what we are doing to propose solutions, not only technical solutions, but also regulations or policies to be adopted by our governments. Thank you. For the moment, it is all.
Thank you, Luis. So we have a question from Louis Silvestre. Louis, do you want to ask your question? Can we open her up so she can ask a question in person?
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for the presentation so far. So I'm hoping that everybody can hear me well. So it was just to ask you about, okay, starting to share my videos, asking whether related to land use, and therefore if circular economy approach that has been used in the research made by the people here in this in the panel, I mean, like include as well these aspects of land, the land resource. I mean, like, and therefore opening to aspects related to densifications of buildings as well. And this comes, of course, with at least to my own knowledge, to challenges that. I mean, the more we can densify actually buildings, and for example, going into higher buildings, generally reach an optimum in terms of resource management. I mean, like a good example we can think about is the higher the building is, I mean, like the deeper the foundations are as well, right? So, I mean, like, are those elements in your research a part of your research, or also just any thought from anyone here? I mean, like, just willing to open discussion on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I step in?
Please, go ahead.
Okay, Lois, thank you very much. This is a very nice question. Actually, we didn't analyze the land use. However, we have a criteria. I mean, there's a simple criteria to make an assessment if anything is related to circular economy. We can use some frameworks like Resolve, 10R, and I'd like to answer your questions with focus. I mean, referring 10R strategy, or 10R these are the circular economy implementation strategies starting with R, like reduce, rethink, rescale, and etc. So to my best opinion, land use directly aligns with refuse and reduce strategies, since it encourages efficient site planning and minimizing the amount of land required for building project by reducing overall land use. And also, that there are some sustainability approach or sustainable certification systems encouraging to use of brownfields for new constructs. So this also aligns very well with the same idea, like refuse and reduce. I also can make easily a linkage between repurpose and rethink, because recently we have been discussing about some architectural concepts. It doesn't create too much disruption on the land size, but rather it goes. That design principle goes well with the nature itself. So it encourages repurpose and rethink strategies, and those strategies are directly related to circular economy principles. So I will say that yes, land use is one of the critical concepts and is directly aligned and somehow indirectly aligned with circular economy principles. So maybe some other speakers like to add something.
If you allow me to say something, we have so our action is focused in buildings and in the built environment. So in the built environment, we do not consider only buildings. We consider the surrounding of buildings, because if we talk about sustainability, it is very, very, very difficult, very hard to have a sustainable building in the middle of nowhere, because we do not, the building is not the only thing. We have to go out, we have to shop, we have to buy things, we have to go to the work and come back. So the surroundings of the buildings are also very much important. So this leads also to the consideration of the urban environment, the neighborhood. So, and we are dealing also with urban circular economy at the urban level. Some colleagues in our action are dealing with this. And densification is one issue. It is, well, in this framework of circular economy, in the framework of sustainability, that is even broader than the circular economy, in the framework of our life. So I have a good example that shows that high-rise buildings are not the solution. So imagine imagine that we have a 100 or 200 floors building, high rise, and imagine that we have row houses, 100 or 200 row houses in a street. I think you can see the difference. Whatever you need in when you are living in an apartment in a high-rise building like this, you need to go out, you need to use the elevator, you need to come in, you need to use the elevator, you need to go and talk to a neighbor, you need the elevator. The elevator needs energy to work. So if the comparison, the extreme comparison is that we have a street with row houses that we can leave the door, we can go to the grocery, we can come back just walking and not spending energy. So these are two extreme examples of high densification and low, very low densification. But as everything in life, things are not black and white, of course. Things have a gradient of grays or gradient of colors, and we need to find the balance. That is the most important thing in all aspects of our life, that is to find the balance. So I have had this discussion with many people, and there are strong feelings regarding densification, and there are those that are against. So this is an issue that has to be studied case by case. For instance, in Hong Kong, it is like a jungle of, I'm not trying to offend anybody, okay? But the densification is so high, that is difficult. And for instance, in New York, it is that was the example of high-rise buildings. The densification is not so high as in Hong Kong. So, and the quality of life is different because at the end, what is our purpose? Our purpose is that people can live with quality of life and can be happy. Happiness of the people is the purpose of research, is the purpose of our living, is what we need. We need to create conditions that people are living happy and satisfied with quality of life. But of course, now seeing things from another perspective, we are talking about things that are important to the developed countries, to the people that have almost everything in life. Because if we are going to Africa, Ethiopia, for instance, they do not have so much conditions to live there, and so they do not care if it is high rise or low rise, or if it is circular or not circular, or sustainable or not sustainable. They are much more concerned with their self-survival.
Yep.
So
thanks, Lloyd. We need to move on to the next question. Thank you.
Oh, sorry for talking so much.
Kalpani, can we ask you to ask your question, please? Kalpani Madhavika from Sri Lanka, from Moratura University. Are you still online? She looks like she's gone off. Oh, no, she's here. Kalpani, could you answer the question?
Hello.
Hi, please go ahead, ma'am.
I am Kalpani from University of Moratua, Sri Lanka. So these days I am doing my final year research on the topic of implementing circular economy through supply chain innovations in developing countries. So my first objective is to look at the practices that are in the manufacturing industry, meaning supply chain of the manufacturing industry. I am asking that as my first question, how circular economy implementation is important into supply chain in manufacturing industry. What about your thoughts? Am
That's
I
a good
clear?
question, Kalpani. That's a very good question. So it's basically looking at how can we introduce not just in the building sector, but in the manufacturing sector as well. We'd like to hear the thoughts of the panel on that, perhaps as the last question.
Okay, Rand, would you like to go for it?
Yeah, I probably can address this. So we already, I guess, said something about this in the presentation of Circular V. So when we talked about the circularity of feedback systems, not only the technical processes within the building. So I believe regarding the supply chain, the circular economy promotes the digital and automatization movement. So I believe this movement is very important to ensure the centralization of information and the accessibility by all stakeholders to this information. I think this is a very important thing. The other thing is also the concept of probably industrial symbiosis, like, okay, the waste from industry, some certain industry, it can be raw materials or primary materials for another industry. This is also a very important concept promoted by the circular economy. I guess we are still trying or striving to find patterns and management models to really implement these concepts and see how they work. I guess we are still short in case studies showing the connectivity and the possible management in a circular mode of these supply chains. I think so. This is important. Another concept also that is brought with the circular economy is the use of a secondary materials market. These secondary materials market are aimed to connect different actors throughout the manufacturing industry, also to exchange materials and to connect also suppliers and providers with users, so they can also exchange materials. So these are some important concepts and some new concepts promoted by the circular economy in this concern for the supply and value chain. I don't know if anybody else would
That's
like
a good
to add.
answer, Rand. It's a good answer, and it's a good piece of new work to do, I think. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done in this space. We're running out of time, so I'm going to ask all the panelists, I'm going to put you all on the spot. You're in a lift at the UN headquarters in New York, and the Secretary General gets in the lift and he says, "What can I do about the circular economy?" You have 15 seconds. Fahad, maybe you first. What do you want to tell the Secretary General?
I would say give more money.
Oh, great answer. Good answer. Louise, how about you?
Well, that is really a difficult question. I agree with Ferhat, of course, give more money. But I know that United Nations do not give money. They use a lot of money, but they do not give money to projects. I think we should say to Antonio Guterres, that is Portuguese as well. Well, please be influential with banks and the multinational companies, and try to get them aware that this is the only way that we can save our future. I think
That's it.
more,
You got your 15 seconds, Louise. It was a good answer.
Yeah.
The door closed. I'm sorry to
Thank
do
you.
that to you, but you had a bit of
Okay.
time to work the question
Thank
out
you.
while you were waiting in the lift, so that's okay. Rand, I'm going to go you last, Dina.
Okay, I believe I would say that we need some governmental support and some incentives, and probably collaboration among everybody. So it's not like I think that can be achieved from one group or one a group of stakeholders. We need collaboration among everybody to achieve our objectives towards a circular economy.
I hope to see you at the United Nations, Rand. That's a very good answer. Okay, and Dina, you know, the old hand, the experienced campaigner, what do you think? And
Thank
your
you.
last, Dana.
So I want to highlight the importance of reputation and recognition. So because they're making investments, so they want return. What they get in return. So one of the benefits could be reputation. But how to get this reputation? If your building was constructed using circular economy, how it's gonna be recognized? You know, and especially like Steve, you and me. So you know, Asian Development Bank committed to 100 billion of climate finance, right? So, and many organizations committed to such climate finance, green finance. So they really want to make sure that this is green finance. So this need to be recognized, right? So there should be a
Yeah, I
label
agree.
for circular economy. Yeah, thank you.
So he's going to come out and say, that's a very good idea, Dina. What we need to do is we need to create a certification program so we can recognize this. Or we need to get 57 different certification programs and coalesce them into one so everyone can at least have a common playing field. Idana, you're last. I'm sorry to put you last, but you know, what would you say?
Yeah, thank you for this question. And I agree with all of the presenters before me, but I also would like to say that it is important to keep collaboration and transparency across the whole supply chain, because construction industry, you know, there are different life stages of constructing some structure. This is why it's very important to keep the circular economy practices during each of the stage, which is why it is important to keep the transparency of the supply chain through all the process.
No hiding nasty things in your backyard and in your factory. Make sure that it can be seen that you're doing the right thing. So these are all very good answers, and I'm sure the people who are with Mr. Gutierrez will be taking note on that. So on that note, I would like to thank our friends from ADBI and also the team that's working on this. Appreciate it. I know perhaps it was a bit hard work and a bit academic, but this is really important stuff. And I think if it leads on to an outcome where we can see lots of really high quality circular buildings that have low impact and low carbon footprints and are really nice places to live and people feel good about living in them, this work is very important to inform that. So I thank you all for the work you're doing. And on behalf of ADB, I'd like to say thank you, and we're going to close the webinar. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.